Hello everybody, this is the Collector, and today I want to talk about the new Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon game. I'd also like to give you my take as a longtime fan of the Armored Core franchise from From Software. I grew up playing this stuff back on the original PlayStation 1. I never really got into Dark Souls or any of the fantasy stuff, but Armored Core, anything mech related, man, that was my jam. Being a fan of the earlier MechWarrior games like MechWarrior 2 and MechWarrior 3, it left me desiring a more anime mecha style feel in a game. Armored Core provided that feel, with Armored Core 1 being a little more slower, realistic, all the way through Armored Core 4, which was the high-speed mecha combat that I was really looking for. The new Armored Core 6 gameplay footage shows the Armored Core that the player is playing moving at a in-between speed between maybe Armored Core 3 and Armored Core 4. Not as fast as 4 for Answer. In 4 Answer, I mean, you were going high speed, like ludicrous speed. There's these missions in there where you have this thing called a Vanguard Overboost, which are essentially rockets just attached to your Armored Core, and the missions where you would use these, you would fight these giant, massive mechs or fortresses called arms forts, and those are some of the coolest battles in any Armored Core game I'd ever seen. I've heard from fans of Dark Souls that a lot of those big monster battles that From Software put in those games, they got that idea from the Armored Core 4 Answer games and the Arms Fort boss battle missions. So that was a cool thing to discover. I had no idea that there was a relation between the techniques or the styles, and I don't blame people for liking Dark Souls for that. I mean, ever since games like Shadow of the Colossus or just any game, whether it's action or RPG, or even those arcade shooters where you'd fight hordes of like soldier units, and then you'd have to fight this big boss at the end of every level. That's what Armored Core 4 for Answer achieved. And you also got some of that in the other Armored Core games. Armored Core 2 had boss battles where you would fight these giant MTs or muscle tracers, the non-Armored Core mechs that were, think of them like the casual mechs, or the bullet sponge mechs. Like in Gundam, you have the standard mobile suits, but then you have the Gundams that are like even more powerful. And so in the Armored Core games, you have Armored Cores, which are like your Gundams, and then you have Muscle Tracers, which are like your mobile suits, your standard units. So all of really cool comparisons, really cool like tips of the hat or references to popular mecha anime from the 90s and the 2000s, and it's just always made me enjoy the Armored Core games. The Armored Core games always aim to give you that sensation of being in a Gundam, or being in a high-speed anime mecha style combat. It gave you that feeling of power, very power fantasy oriented. But you had to earn it. You had to pass the levels, find the hidden parts, make the money to buy the better parts, build your mech, and that has always been a staple in the Armored Core games. One of the things I'm hoping they implement in the new Armored Core game is this building of your mechs, the parts, the generators and weapons and other modifiers, like your extension parts and your your fire control computers, and I'm wondering if they're gonna reintroduce the radiator. They removed that after Armored Core 2 or 3, I believe. They didn't have radiators in Armored Core 4. I'm not sure about 5 or Verdict Day, since I didn't play those. Unlike RPGs where you level up after every battle or you get experience points, in Armored Core games, the power dynamic is you buy equipment, you make more money to buy even more equipment, you fight in the arenas, and sometimes you get special parts that are force multipliers that are better than anything you can buy. And then another thing that Armored Core games had are the secret parts. So secret parts in some of the missions gave you this, not only gave you parts that might be stronger than anything else in the game that you could buy or earn in the arena, but it also added that replayability. And I'm really hoping that Armored Core 6 does that as well. There's not that much information about it, if the game is going to be open world or if it's going to have really, really long missions like in the Verdict Day games or the Armored Core 5 game, or if it's going to be shorter missions or shorter level design as in all the other Armored Core games. So like Armored Core 2 or 1 through 4 answer. So that's exciting to try to think about. I'm really hoping that they go back to the basics and stick to what the Armored Core fan base really wants. I hope they don't make the mistakes they made in Armored Core 5. I know Verdict Day solved a lot of those issues. They made the mission shorter, they added more parts, and they added the unmanned armored core system where you could program unmanned armored cores and have them as allies. So that would be probably the coolest thing to see in the new Armored Core, is coming back to form, going back to the original style of Armored Core games, bringing in some high speed from the later Armored Core games like 3 and 4, and then adding the Verdict Day AI unmanned Armored Core allies. Whoo, man, that would be peak Armored Core right there. I'm excited for that. I'm hoping they do that. If they don't, not a big deal. I'm sure that maybe we'll see like a Armored Core 6 Revenge or something. If anybody here is familiar with the Armored Core games, you know, we got Armored Core 2, then we got Armored Core 2 Another Age. You know, then there was Armored Core 3, Armored Core 3 Nexus, Armored Core 3 Last Raven. There's Armored Core 4, then there was Armored Core 4 for Answer. So I'm definitely expecting Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon to have like a Armored Core 6 Revenge of the Raven or something. Some other additional interquel or sequel to that sequel. And that's also exciting to think about. If Armored Core is really back, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 possibility that we're going to see a Armored Core 6-2 and hopefully an Armored Core 6 Part 3. Another thing I'm hoping to see is a continuation of the world building that was started in Armored Core 4. So a lot of the previous Armored Core games, Armored Core 1, Armored Core 2, they weren't really tied together lore-wise, and if they were, I didn't really see many connections. You didn't have the same companies or the same like megacorps that you worked for. Then Armored Core 2 Another Age came out, and that was sort of a sequel to Armored Core 2, but again, it wasn't going back to Armored Core 1. Then you got Armored Core 3, which rebooted the idea of Armored Core 1, which was the underground cities with the Overlord AI that controls everything. Spoiler alert, sorry if people haven't played it. I'll add a spoiler thingy at the bottom so I don't spoil it for you. But Armored Core 3 also didn't seem to have any ties to Armored Core 2. So you have these Armored Core games that didn't tie into each other lore-wise. But once we got past the sequels of Armored Core 3, which do tie into each other because they're all Armored Core 3, you got into Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer. They were in the same universe, the same the Kojima particle, dismantlement war, the Lynx war, all that stuff, the arms forts, and you had multiple endings. But then you had Armored Core 5, and Armored Core 5 took place in the same universe as Armored Core 4. So that was a break in form of what From Software was doing with Armored Core. They broke the pattern of changing the history and making their own other universe. They used the same universe as Armored Core 4 with Armored Core 5. And then in Armored Core Verdict Day, again, spoiler alert, but you get to fight a Next. You get to fight Motherwill, the spirit of Motherwill again. I mean, it's cool that they did that. It's really cool. Will Armored Core 6 tie into the world of Armored Core 4, 5, and Verdict Day? That's the exciting question for me right now. I hope they do. And there might be some evidence here to prove that this might be the case. So in the gameplay footage of Armored Core 6 that we see the tank legs, then we see a battle between the player character and fighting against other Armored Core units. And then the screen fades to black after this explosion. Now, what does that explosion remind you of? If you've played Armored Core 4 or 4 Answer, it looks strikingly like the Kojima particle explosions. So, is that Kojima particles? If it is, are you piloting a Next? Is this a Next technology mech? Now, we also got hints in, I guess, a couple of the endings from Armored Core 4 Answer that the overarching corporate powers that controlled the planet, they had this like force field or an array of satellites that prevented people from leaving Earth and colonizing other planets or other systems or whatnot, or just leaving the death ball that was Earth at that time. In Armored Core Verdict Day, you see a lot of humanity coming back. The Kojima particle contamination on Earth has subsided, and humans are thriving again. Warring, but thriving. Armored Core 6 takes place in another planet. Rubicon 3 or 4, or whatever the name of the planet is. Is this the space age of Armored Core 4's universe? I'm gonna say yes. I'm thinking that we are seeing like a part 3 in the Armored Core 4 saga. And again, another thing to be excited about. I'm just dying to get my hands on this game. I hope you guys are too. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day.